So welcome everybody to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. Today we have episode 91. I must apologize, first of all, for the delay. Second of all, our streaming video in the beginning, for some reason the software decided not to operate. Then Facebook was also giving me a hard time to get on, so you probably noticed that the thumbnail to introduce it was very different than normally we would have, because for some reason it took me a good half an hour to 45 minutes to try to get on Facebook because it kept kicking me off. So anyways, it's been a very interesting. Go ahead.
Facebook is working, but I can't write a comment for some reason.
Okay, so Kimberly for some reason can't write a comment on Facebook. We had to kind of piecemeal to get on, so we are on at the moment. And I'm sure that you guys, if you're on Facebook, you can see us. And YouTube seems to be okay the way it was. We didn't have any issues on that part. But today seems to be a day filled of technology issues. I know we're getting a little really powerful, strong energies that are coming through today and carrying on for the next day or so. But at the same time, the technologies have been really funky today. But anyways, we flow with whatever plays out. We are still, on focus on what we'd like to do. And in today's episode, we're going to kind of do a little review and then we're going to take care of your questions. The only problem is if you are on Facebook and you really want to post a question, you'll have to stream over to YouTube, depending on what platform you're on at this point in time. If you're on any of the pages that are registered with myself or Kimberly, or even Advancing Consciousness and so forth, you will have a link at the bottom in the comment where you can actually go to the YouTube channel. But at this point in time, unfortunately, this is kind of what we're dealing with. If we have more issues, we may have to stop the transmission today and reset the time and do it a little later today or something of that nature to get on. But anyways, we'll move through with what we are dealing with at the moment. So today we're going to be looking at some important factors to keep in mind moving forward. As we're moving forward, and there's many things that keep brewing. So I don't have to kind of tell you because you already know, but in a way, when we look at how things are unfolding every single day, it seems to get more and more insane, more and more intense. We're feeling a lot more through ourselves in our own bodies, in our own experiences, even our interactions with other people. Also, wherever you are, if you're working, if you're, with your family dynamics, with friendships, or just running regular errands. You may notice a lot of inconsistencies, first of all. Second of all, you may also notice there's a lot of different things that may play out in ways that you're not so accustomed to, and so forth. But also, if you're watching any form of streaming that's going on, mainstream, alternative, any of the social medias, you're going to find more polarities, more confusion, and so forth. And that's enough to give you a kind of a really rocky ride of sort, and it can be that way and it can look that way, but it doesn't have to be that way, and that's the key factor here. So we're going to touch upon some of the topics and some of the points we want to keep in mind as we move forward, because things are going to ramp up even further. And I know September is already pretty colorful. It's going to just keep ramping up into October and so forth. And we do not see anything really shifting any profoundly from the intensities we're going. And that doesn't mean it's going to change where you're going to go in a state of ease. But certain things are going to come up so that it's going to look or feel different in December. So that's how it's intended. That's the trajectory, or whatever, how it's said, that we are on at the moment. But of course, everything is flexible. Everything is fluid in a way where we are always constantly shifting every part of it. So first of all, welcome everybody. And I'd like to thank everybody for your contribution, for your support to assist us in our move, and also to be able to stay afloat and do all the things that we are doing now. So I great appreciation for that. At any point in time, if any of this work resonates for you, then, we're very open to receiving any contribution and support. But, at this point in time, everything that we provide with no cost whatsoever. and we'd like to maintain it that way as we move forward. So, and also saying that in the descriptions you'll find the different links to the different resources, but also a PayPal contribution link. And now that we've set up also Patreon, you can also schedule a monthly subscription payment of sort if you choose to do so. No requirements on our part. We're just open for it, and we just wanted to thank you for the people that did participate and the ones that are considering at this point in time. So let's get to move on, and let's play with what's going on. So as I said, things are intensifying. Things are really ramping up on so many levels at this point in time. Does it mean that everything's falling apart? It can look that way. Is it? Not really. There's a lot of adjustments going on. Adjustments personally, adjustment in all of our systems, adjustments in all of the role players that are in place, all the narratives and so forth are going into a chaotic mode. All the support that was there from what we call a negative life stream, a negative force and so forth, is amplifying in its vision of how it presents. But in fact, the impact, the support mechanism that was there, and also the real intense role players that were the instigator of all of that is not effective any longer. In fact, most of it is actually disarmed. So in that particular case, what we're seeing is what we are collectively stimulating to really kind of wake us up, create a shift within ourselves. Because everything that we're going through right now, we're basically really purging out any remaining parts of our histories, our stories, our labels, our definitions, and so forth, to the degree that it's actually giving us the opportunity to shift not only our focus, our energies, and also to free ourselves, to be the true essence that we are more and more as we go along. So we cannot drag any of the past. And also not only the past, all of our attachments to our old life, attachments to our connections, attachments to individuals, family, whatever. And when I say attachment in holding on to it so that it remains the same and has a consistency that you're familiar with. But it's not only that, letting go and letting flow, because as you let everybody else and all connections flow on its own, it frees you to flow on your own. So it is a dual-sided. So it's not just letting it go so that you free, it's freeing everyone. And that creates a very powerful dynamic change collectively. And you probably will notice it in your immediate environment and so forth. Now, you're still going to be the loving being that you are. You're going to share, you're going to do, but have no expectations for anything, no demanding or requesting or anything of that nature. Be in that flow, allowing every aspect of yourself, and it doesn't matter the age or anything of that nature, that because of certain age that you have to play a more responsible, powerful role that has to. Now, I know as sometimes parents, as certain individuals that have taken on certain responsibilities, we feel that we have to carry that burden. But it's not about carrying the burden. It's basically flowing and allowing that natural state of communication, support, or whatever it may be, but in a natural state instead of the old state that we have, been playing with so long. Many of us have created such a pattern or such a default that is where we slide always back in. And we're going to cover a couple of points. And then after we've done the points and so forth, we're going to focus a little bit more time addressing questions today. So the conversation won't be as long, but it was really important because of everything that's changing right now and speeding up and specifically where we are right now, that a good reminder will allow you to flow. And the reminder is reminding you what you already know, stimulating what is already known within you. So even this beautiful live stream that we're doing, or if you're watching it on the replay, it's energetically charged. It's very fine tuning just to turn you on. And that's all you're doing is turning yourself on to your natural state, and outside of the so-called labeled or defined or facade version of yourself, or in this case, many cases, your older version of yourself that you've adopted at certain stages in your life to play very specific roles while you were in the observing, while you were in the learning, while you were really experiencing the entanglement and everything that those limits and everything else provided you. But that's not where you are at anymore, because now it's time for you to flourish. And this is why a lot of these changes are going on. This is the reason that you're even on the planet at this time. You could have came in after a lot of the changes happened. You could have came here before you even started, and some of you have. But you're here now for a very powerful reason. And that reason is because you wanted to participate. You wanted to participate in the whole experience, get a real deep understanding of it, also be part of the transition and see how that transition feels and how it plays out, but also to be part of that new unfoldment. Go ahead.
The volume's a bit low on YouTube.
A little low on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll listen.
Okay. It looks like it's pretty loud, but let me see. Just gonna check a couple of things. Can you see where it says stream out? Can you? Okay, just leave that out. Just the camera one, or the one that's red. You can adjust it until so that we don't go. As long as I don't peak. Okay. We're increasing the volume so that you will be able to hear it a little bit better. Hopefully that works for you. I'm going to try bumping it up here too. So just keep an eye on it. What's that?
Your mic, can it be turned out? Or bringing your mic up?
No, it's just going to cause distortion because I'm looking at the sound meter here and it's pretty high up there. Okay, so because I'm actually going into yellow, so it may not. It may be on their end too, their computer or something.
It doesn't make a difference where the mic is on your shirt?
No, not really, because it's on super sensitive, so it can hear it. Plus, I'm looking at the meter here, and it is showing.
People are saying better. It's better.
Okay, well, hopefully it doesn't do any crackling part because we're pretty close to that at the moment. All right, so with this understanding of everything that's going on right now, you wanted to be part of all of it, all the stages of the old world. And experiencing, getting lost in it, really entangling yourself, losing yourself in it, and now coming to the point where you're going through the transition. You're involved in different stages of that transition, and then as the transition goes on, you're stepping into that new world, and then you're going to establish that new world. You're going to be not only the experiencer, but you're also going to create a beautiful field of energy and supportive energy to have others be able to link in and do it. Now, that does not mean that you go in there and you go into teaching mode. In some cases you may, but in this case what I'm saying is as you are experiencing and everybody you interact with and just your presence, your energy and your connection to the collective will already be largely impacted. Now, there's also going to be some more transitions that you need to really be observant about. And when I say observant, let it flow. Whatever the movie is showing, whatever is being projected, whatever is being intensified, no matter what it looks like, just let it be. You play your role, never take the responsibility, never get entangled in it, because that's so easy for us to do so, but stay rock solid with yourself. And that rock solid with yourself is being you, and that is the part some of us are not so familiar with because we've kind of played all those other roles. That one kind of seems like a strange part, but once you are experiencing it, it feels like home. It feels natural to you, even if the mind will say otherwise for a period of time until that adjustment takes place. Okay, so let's get to play some here. Let's bring that forth. All right. Okay. So, there are important factors. When I'm saying important factors, let's put that sheet up. When I'm talking about important factors, these are things that we will use now And of course, you can use it along the way too, but you're using it now to kind of really assist you to navigate. So it's important to keep it in mind if we're truly choosing to move forward, and we are moving forward. Many of us are kind of feeling that it's going too slow. It is going the speed that it's going, and remember, some people are going way slower than others. Everybody's being affected one way or another. There's many layers of choice points being established along the way on the journey for every single person. For you, you may be saying, well, I'd like it to move forward. However, from a higher perspective of yourself, you seem to be very okay with the stages, and you want to really participate because you don't want to miss any part of the opportunity that is being made available that all of us are doing collectively. So it's not so much about getting from A to B, it's also watching all the different steps and seeing all the transitions. And as you're involved in it, you're actually creating stepping stones, or in this case, different levels that others can copy and move forward, so they don't have to be the forerunners. They can kind of follow the path. So you're basically the trailblazers, and you're actually making the path. And there's many of us. It's not just sitting in one person's responsibility or one being's responsibility, where many of us are. So there are many different paths, but the paths are all great. And the path doesn't have a specific outcome. It has a specific intent, but the path is, as we take each step, we're actually designing the next step, and the path itself is where most of the growth is, and where you achieve. And then when you get to a certain level, it's not stagnant, but it doesn't have to have the same expression or experience that we're having now, where we're going through very rapid changes. But when we're there, we now get involved in really constructing that world much more refined. And many of us have to dig into our resources of what we know within ourselves to be part of that designing of that so-called new world. And a lot of the old world at that point in time, because many of us will be involved in it in the sense of moving forward, that we will all take not only part of it as we are stepping into our individualized roles, but then we're also going to be taking steps in changing a lot of the systems that may have collapsed by then and things of that nature as we're going along. So to create new ones, and no replications, no unnecessary. We no longer have to support keeping ourselves involved and busy and so forth, but to kind of go into that imaginative, dream, creative state and unpacking that in that fashion. Okay, so first thing we need to understand here, because a lot of people, we've all talked about the ego. I've talked about the ego. Many people have talked about the ego. Many people are involved with the whole idea. And I know even with Eckhart Tolle and everybody else that has kind of really put in the forefront the ego part, the ego is a software, as I've said. I'm not sure too many people say exactly that, but I have been saying it for a decade or two, that, the ego is actually a software. And the ego is basically been there to kind of emphasize, support, and to play out the role within ourselves, to override any of our own knowing and to create this inverted matrix. So it was basically to support the inverted 3D, 2D state of being and the inverted matrix. Now, of course, the inverted matrix, the transmission from the moon, and also that inverted 3D, 2D is what we're already purging out. And the software itself, which we call the ego, is not getting any of the support that it was getting before from the transmission and the inverted matrix that was intact before, but hasn't been intact for quite some time, way over a year, more than a year and a half actually. So it's not intact any longer, but here's the highlight about it all. The ego is losing its capacity. So it's no longer having the same grip on you, and it does not have the same overriding factor of your experience. You may still experience what looks like ego, which It's still active to a certain degree, but what we're really experiencing is patterns that we've been established, defaults that have been ingrained within ourselves because we've played those dialogues so long and we've given so much validity, so much realism, so much identification that we've actually labeled it ourselves. So what we're looking at, those are the patterns that are stepping into. So the capacity to dominate and run you with an ongoing stimulation and dominance. And when I say stimulation, taking the archives of your memories of various labeled and defined experiences, which sometimes are classified as trauma or something like that, and then building many stories around that. You will find that it's less and less active in the story making part. The dialogues and everything are reducing. However, we have storylines like little movies already stored in our subconscious mind that gets easily triggered because we've kind of created a pattern to activate that. That being the case, realizing that it's mainly the stories, the labels, the definitions, and so forth that we've applied to it that is still kind of going into that groove and then playing it out, you will realize that you can move through it a lot easier, and that's the full intent. So as much as the ego may have played a very powerful role for the longest time, as we keep going, it's losing its capacity, its support. Now, the only other time that it gets supported is when a couple of egos or more start to play with each other. So then they try to stimulate one another by playing not only different roles or stimulating whatever it is, but what ends up happening with any of that at this point is that when those factors come into play, they kind of stimulate, remind each other, and re-energize each other. So you have to pay attention that if you're getting involved with someone and you're noticing a kind of an ego play, then you're the one that has to decide, am I going to continue playing with this or not? Now, of course, sometimes it can be confusing because you're going to have certain ideas, patterns, and programs that may kick in and play out a certain way. But in fact, when you really truly realize how it actually works, you're going to realize that at this point in time, as we're doing this transitional component, you're going to notice that you will be able to more easily recognize it and more easily detach from the entanglement that would have, because the grip is not as strong. So that's the first thing. So that's a bonus because the ego is not having the same power and capacities that it did before. And as we move forward, it continues to dissolve. So then it's really what we're looking at, and this is what we're working on ourselves, is purging out all those patterns, all those defaults, all those things that we've gotten accustomed to. And some of us have emotional charges within ourselves, and I've talked about it many times how to address it. So I'm not going to repeat it now, but at the same time, by looking at that, when you're looking at all the different stories and so forth, the defaults that kick in, you can now see it and let that go, because by letting that go, you are going more into your truer state. Okay, so basically what's really playing out? Our history, and we have all had a way of life, okay? We have memories of what played out, what it meant to you, what emotional charge was involved, who did what was happening at that point in time, and you created a lot of reference points. We have all have. There's no blaming anyone, and that was still part of the process, and it was part of the perfection at the same time. So what we're looking at is our history that is coming through at this point in time, our history of what happened. So if you're seeing yourself coming into remembering what happened with someone or any particular part of your life at any point in time, that is just kind of the old memories coming up to the surface, because a lot of the energies are stimulating it just to be seen again, so that you can look at it in a new set of eyes and be in a more firm choice point and saying, okay, great, that was beautiful. That's why we acknowledge it. That's why we thank it. That's why we love it. And that's why we let it free. And a lot of the energies that are coming in right now are supporting you to move it through, so it doesn't have to be very laborful. It doesn't have to be very challenging as it used to be. And the importance of learning from all those stages have dropped dramatically. Okay, so our histories, all of our attached storylines, and we've all created stories on our experiences. And like I said, the stories also carry the labels and definitions and so forth. So something happened, you identify with the story. Who did what, whatever, and then feeling that your story, your life is that experience. That experience laid out your current life or any stream of your or different stages in your life. So that is what's playing out more than anything else, that the ego is not even using very much of it. It's very small amounts. So it's our history, our attached storylines, which we have defined and we have labeled. Good or bad, or good enough, not good enough, acceptable or not acceptable, lovable or not lovable, or the fact that I failed or I succeeded. All of those are definitions that we applied, labels that we have applied in ourselves. Well, I'm a failure or whatever, those are labels. And then you say, well, I screwed up, and you have that label on yourself. So that's coming to the surface, not to torture you by it, not to remind you of any of that. It's just basically showing you that is still active within yourself. So now you acknowledge it, thank it, love it, and free it, because it's not there for you any longer. All of those experiences were when you chose to have those experiences, but it was also very much related to the fact that you were going through the learning process of understanding the current human experience and also what it entailed. But now you're doing all of that part of the transformation. So that includes any programs. And what are programs? Programs are any default patterns. So A equals B, which equals C, or stage 1, 2, 3. If this happens, these are my patterns. This is the direction I go. This is how I should handle it, and so forth, which again are all that inverted 3D, 2D stuff, all of the stuff that was the old version of you. And remember, anything that applies to any of your storylines, definitions, and labels, they were applied when you were a different person. You were at a different level of consciousness. There was different energies involved with a different purpose, because at that time the purpose was to get caught up in it and get involved in it, to get that really sensorial experience. But now it's changed, because now you are choosing to embody the pure essence of yourself, your true self, and also unpack that new world. So none of that applies any longer. None of it is of any value. So that includes programs and patterns, and are less supported and dissolving quickly. So what I'm saying is the programs and patterns. We all have patterns. Something gets triggered and you automatically respond a certain way. It could be anger, could be fear. You can feel that you can go into victim state. You can feel bad for yourself. Those are patterns. Those are patterns that have been established. How does a pattern come about? Well, we keep repeating it, and then we put an automatic pattern. So that's also being challenged at this point and purged. So one of the things that's going on, it is having less and less supported. Less and less supported by you, less and less supported by your consciousness, less and less supported by the energies around you, the energies of what you are moving through you, and all of these upgrades that are going. So it's not supported the same way as it was before. So it is much more easily to dissolve it. And that's what it is. It's dissolving a lot quicker than ever before. This is what we need to realize, that it's not as difficult as it was before. So whenever it seems like it's painful, whenever it seems that, if you jump right in and take a look at it as an experience and choose to see what's there, and if there's any value or not, or then let it go. But of course, acknowledge it, thank it for what it's provided. And if you do come up with stuff you provided, which you will, that it's provided, don't judge what it's provided, because even if we label it and judged it as a bad experience, that was just a temporary label under a specific idea of what that experience was. it was an old label. But when you see it from the perspective that you are going into now, and many of you are already in, you can see it as just what it is, an experience. So that is just, as you see it as an experience, as you see it as a play, you see that whatever played out was part of the movie that you interacted with others or whatever was involved at the time to give you a certain level of experience and learning up to this point in time. When you see it for that, then you don't look at it the same way that it was something horrible that happened to you. You'll see it for what it really is. It was just an experience. It comes, it goes, and it was an old version of you. Nothing that was right or wrong with that older version of yourself. There's no judgment about the older version of yourself. There's no judgment about what choices you made or didn't make, or who you were involved or not involved, what path you took, or anything about nature, because that gets you all entangled, and that's where you can slow things down. And if you slow anything down right now, you will notice you're going to have and feel more intensification. You're going to feel more chaotic. You're going to feel more kicked in the butt of sorts. So you're the one that's doing it, but you're stimulating from a superconscious state or a higher conscious state those opportunities so that you don't hang on to anything. And that's the whole purpose of the exercise, if you want to call it that. So being true to yourself is vital in moving through things much quicker and more efficiently. So being true to yourself. Right now, there's many offerings that are coming up. Offerings to accept or not accept certain things. If you don't accept, then you're going to be casted out or anything of that nature. You're going to find a lot of people offering to you different ways of life, different choice points, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, who has authority, who has, what freedom you have or don't have. There's many, and I say the word offering because it is just that, an offering. It's not a mandate, even though it's coming under the labels of mandates, under the labels, if you want to be with us and you want to have freedom, you got to do this. If you want to be in our family, you have to do this. Or the fact that in some cases, if you want to join our family or visit our family, you have to follow these so-called adopted ideas that they may have. And the thing is, the calling for you is to be truly true to yourself. And what does that mean? So when you're being true to yourself, the decisions you make, the choices you make, the direction you go, the focus you apply in anything will be self-generated from the pure state of you. You're not going to accept anything else unless it totally 100% resonates with you. And if it doesn't, then you will make the choice without applying any part of any other offering that may be there. So the point to this, to understand it to its fullest, is by being yourself, true to yourself, you make choices that resonate 100% with you, and everything else you do not. Doesn't matter how much pressure may be put on, how many people may be kind of saying you should be doing this or doing that. You make the choice yourself. And the choice you make, you stick to, and you stay rock solid in it. And that way, what you're doing is you're harnessing your empowered state. You're stepping out of the victim state. You're now also going into that self-directed creator state that is the core fundamental aspect of yourself, your true essence. And that paves a completely different life stream. That starts to shape all levels of not only your personal experience, but all levels of realities, your immediate and all the different layers of realities that are experienced. And you're basically shifting channels, not only in your experience, but shifting channel on the collective. So you're only seeing a certain part of it. Now, you may fade in and out here and there, but at the same time, the more you stay true to yourself, the more you self-navigate, you self-direct, and you really stage every step of the way. You're not going to rely on anybody else to tell you how to do things, what is right, what's wrong, what's good. You may receive certain information, but you use your own discernment, your own knowing to see if it matches for you, or that it makes total sense, or it feels completely congruent, it feels natural, it feels you. And that's how you will navigate. And that's what's happening. This is part of the process that we're going through right now, is for us to stay rock solid. So if you could see all the narratives that are playing out, all the pressures that are being applied for everything that's going on, it's kind of, you're the diamond, or you're the coal that's becoming the diamond, and you're being refined by the pressures. But the pressures is really just there so that you refine yourself. And that's what's really happening. All right. Now, the other thing that is very prevalent right now is called fear. That is a tool, a powerful tool, and it's being pushed hard. But many of us have noticed, and you've noticed it yourself, that the amount of fear and the power it has over you is shifting. So, fear is very limiting. And it also losing its capacity to bind you. So first of all, let's play with this. The fear is very limiting. When you're in a state of fear, okay, your highest self is kind of dwarfed. You shift focus from a higher level conscious knowing to a program-based, and you're getting caught up in an emotional charge that disconnects you from that higher consciousness. Now, it doesn't disconnect 100%, but it really throttles it right down. Also, fear limits your choices and limits your view, so you will be able to only see from a small slit rather than a bigger perspective. Also, fear, you will notice, will take charge of you emotionally. So when you're embodied in the fear, the emotions really become intensified within yourself, and you're going to feel that you are now in reactive mode. In most cases, you're a victim, disempowered, reactive mode. Okay? So, and it limits your accessibility. It filters a lot of your accessibility, and it is your recognition and connection to your true self dramatically reduces. Now, it doesn't go away, but your accessibility to it reduces tremendously. So, the fear is limiting, and it's also losing its capacity to bind you. For many of us, it's been binding. So you will notice that a lot of the fear that's being projected right now for, your liberty, your freedom, your being this or that, or, if you don't get this, this is going to happen, or whatever that may be, and other pressures from others, that fear is actually getting weaker and weaker within yourself. Because first of all, you're receiving the saturation point where you're getting to the maximum point of really experiencing that fear, but you're also becoming so much more immune. Why? Because you are accessing higher frequency. You're knowing, your stimulation within yourself of who you truly are is stepping more and more in place, and sees fear for what it is. And it's a false illusion. What is it called? False evidence appearing real. So it's an illusionary part that actually limits who you are. As you are your true self, it has no fear. Okay? And I know, as bold as that sounds, it is true. There is no fear. Yes, there's awareness if certain choices will give you certain outcomes, but it is from a broad perspective and from an empowered perspective, because regardless, when you see the perspective, you have the choice point if that perspective becomes real or not within you, rather than going into this default of fear and then being tossed around by the fear itself. So it no longer binds you in the same fashion, so it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and it's no longer dominating you as powerfully. Now, I'm not saying everybody's at that state, but everybody to one degree or another, is losing the same level of intensity. So what's happened energetically and collectively, what we've decided is to trim off more of the depth and the power that fear had on you. So if you're totally caught in the system, you're still going to feel fear, but you're not going to feel it to the same degree as before. Because as your consciousness increases, your vibration increases, the field around you's vibration increases, you will notice you cannot go to that, because fear also brings you to an unconscious state. So it's going to be more difficult to go into the same depth of unconsciousness as you were before. So that's changing. So the fear is not dominating you the same way, because fear creates a disconnect from, which I mentioned, provides also a filter. What does that filter mean? When fear is there, it filters out what you see, the bigger picture. Not only does it restrict it and make it into a silent, it puts in different. So you're dropping the view of the spectrums of light, the spectrum of knowledge, the spectrum of seeing that empowered aspect of yourself, how you shape things. So it reduces that. So it goes through sets of filters, so you don't see it in living color of sorts when you can see all of it. So how we're talking about disclosure and so forth, everything that's playing out is really there to help us dissolve a lot of the filters that we put in. Because many of us see a bigger picture, see what narratives are, what's really playing out versus what is being told to us. And that is the part that people label as disclosure, because now we're seeing deeper layers of it. We're seeing the storylines. We're seeing the motives, so that we can make a choice if we support it or not, if we shift our focus, or how we're going to use it from there. So those filters, fear provides filters, but those filters are changing. So impairing your access to your overall consciousness, like I said. So you can be conscious and aware, and to a point where you really navigate, and you can be playful, and you can experience and have a deeper understanding. But if a fear kicks in and there still has a good grip on you, you lose that connection, you lose that consciousness, and then you get caught up in the whirlwind of what that fear or what the narrative is, what the story is, what anybody else is saying, and so forth. And of course, now at that point, you're not being your true self, and all of that changes. But that's great, because that's, it's a good opportunity to have that experience if you really are still hooked to that. And then the other thing is, too, when we're in fear, we're always looking for others to tell us how to live our life, what choices to make, what is good, what is bad. And that, again, is still part of that overall consciousness access reduction, because if you reduce the access, then you have to rely on others, or at least illusionary rely on others, because you can't trust yourself, because you don't have the same knowing merging, because the fear has kind of overridden all of that. So your access is reduced. So it's great to understand all of this, because as it goes on, these points here are very powerful for you, because once you look at the points, when you understand the points again, you go, oh, okay, great, I know what to do here, and I understand what's playing out here, and I can now be more in that navigating capacity. We are enabling more self-access of our true self, while we're dissolving the programmed and limited self. That's what we're doing. So with everything that's going on, not only within the changes within yourself, the changes within the field, the energies that are moving through, the awareness and consciousness that you're accessing right now, the support that we're creating amongst each other, we're enabling more of our self-access, our true self. We're connecting more to our true self. And our true self is not isolated, and it's not just one part of it. It's multiple parts. As I've said before, that we are a makeup of our multidimensional soul that travels within other realms and dimensions and takes on different forms and creates and carries a tremendous amount of experiences on other playgrounds and other incarnations and so forth. But we also have a human entity which has been incarnating on planet Earth for the last 15,000 years and has gone through all the stages and have gained a tremendous amount of wisdom and knowledge and experience and so forth. And that goes into play too. And then of your innate consciousness, which is basically Gaia moving and talking through us as the sentient being it is, and all the sentient beings on the planet, including trees and plant life and animal kingdom, oceanic kingdom, insect world, reptile world, all birds and so forth, all of that communicating through us. And also the history. And when we're saying history, not the history of whatever played out, but the history of what was learned there, and then we can tap into any of that and it will come available as beneficial. So we are now more than ever, and it will continue to increase, enabling more self-access, less reliance on what is out there in the movie being streamed, and more connecting to your own inner access. And your inner access will unpack your true self, your source. You are the creator, the created, the observer of creation, while dissolving the programmed and limited self. What we've been experiencing in that inverted world, what we've been experiencing for many years in our lives, depending on where you're at this point in time, we've been living a programmed life. A life that was programmed and limited. When I mean programmed, we kind of got conditioned and programmed through personal choice, maybe not so consciously aware of it, how to live life, how to think, how to feel, what's good, what's bad, what choices to make, what not choices to make, whatever. All of that was coming into play. Okay? So all of that has been playing out for you, in a sense. All of us. Programmed, and that created limits. Limits because we couldn't access our higher aspect of ourselves. We could not see the bigger picture. And that limited is because we worked within the programs. We worked within whatever we were seeing in the movie, which all served and was great. But that is not what we are doing any longer. So that's all taking place at this point in time. We are going through, there's many upgrades that are taking place within all of us and around us to step into our upgraded true selves and experience our true human nature. Because these upgrades are changing every facet of you. It's rewiring your communication within yourself. It is reprogramming, redesigning your physicality to shift from different elementary or elements of construct carrying more information, conscious vibration, frequencies, and so forth. But at the same time, as we've talked about, carbon to silicate to crystal. But not only that, it's also bringing back online your DNAs. You're also now creating a unification, oneness within yourself with all the factors that are communicating, overriding, and not overriding, but actually being in charge of what we call the overall consciousness. All of this is all taking place at this time. So, and the upgrades is actually that's taking place. It's not only a restoration of your true design, it's the very fully upgraded version of your true design. It is not the old design, it's the new design and the new design. So, and to experience our true human nature, because, you know, a lot of people have said, and I've said it before too, and others may have said the same thing, is that we haven't really been living our true human nature. And a lot of people say, well, human nature is this way, this way, this way, this way, but they're referring to that inverted matrix, modified version that was never our true nature. Our true nature is amazing on what we are, who we are, and what we are capable of at this point in time. Starting even from our bodies, what it's able to do is amazing. When you put all the combinations together, it just really brings it to another level. And our true human nature is basically very loving, very unified, very sharing, and creating environments of adventure, exploration, and so forth, without the requirement of polarity, without requiring of suffering, without the requirement of survival or anything of that nature. No longer being driven by emotions, no longer bound by needing to consume to define ourselves by what we have. No longer taking charge of anybody else or wanting taking advantage of somebody else or hoarding or anything of that nature, or even the fact of dependency on the food chain for us to be able to survive or anything like that, because that wouldn't even come into the equation, because all you're doing is you're in a flourishing state. So your natural design is very collaborative and very sharing and so forth, and a deeper realization when it comes to oneness, realizing that you're one complete unit with all facets of it, but everyone on the planet, every sentient being, including the planet itself, is all part of you. It's all aspects of you, and you're all connected. There's no deities outside. You're not going to notice that even our brother sister souls that are coming from other dimensions, other planets and so forth, they're different than us. They're all aspects of us having different experiences, and many of us in our multidimensional have been in those particular physicalities, in those particular dimensions and so forth, or playgrounds and physicalities that were involved in it, but now you're here, and that's the part that where you're having all the fun. So Kimberly, are we having fun? Okay, Kimberly's having fun. We're all having fun. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind, that things are moving much faster and changes will not take as long. A lot of us get caught up in the idea that's thinking that it's going to take forever to have a lot of these structures and systems and so forth to match who we're becoming, to have a change in your life, a change in your relationship, change in your connections with others, or in, how you call it, the way we experience life, or even changes within ourselves and how we think and feel and so forth. Things are changing very, very rapidly, and it's speeding it up. And the thing is, the more we go into flow, the faster it flows, and that's what's going on right now. But so things are not going to take as long. So it's not going to be like it's going to take another 200 years, 100 years or whatever before we go into that so-called newer state, fifth dimensional creation state or anything of that nature. No. Things are moving quicker, and we are the ones that are adjusting the speed knob, if you want to call it that, and also the volume that is coming through at this point in time, based on how we get ready and what stages we are as of service to other aspects of ourselves. So to not get caught up in this is going to take forever. We are moving faster and faster and faster along the way, and things are taking less and less time. Many of you have noticed there's changes like regularly, daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes minute by minute, changes in the big picture of the scape of whatever's going on in the world, but also in all your immediate different realities and your personal reality, and even what's changing within you is changing on a rapid pace. What may have seemed impossible is happening more and more. Okay? This is another thing, just keep in mind. The idea that it's impossible that we're going to make such leaps, that it's impossible that these things are going to change, it's impossible that we can do this or that it's impossible for us to shift our current condition unless we have to have something else to be the mediator, or to be something that actually does the work for us. This is all changing for you. So what may seem to be impossible is now happening more and more, and you're seeing that around you in your own personal life, in your own personal journey, with your focus and everything else, but also all the different playmates and realities and so forth that you're experiencing. So that's the other part of it. Just keep that in mind, that what was, think it's impossible for this to dissolve or break down, or the systems to collapse or whatever. And then the collapsing doesn't have to be painful. The collapsing does not have to be where we have to go into a panic mode. Some people may want to have that experience and they can dive into it, but if you are choosing not to, you won't, because you're the one that decides on how to arrange it so that you don't. Okay. it's essential to keep your focus away from the movie around us. Many of us are so paying attention to whatever is happening in the world, trying to take in as much information as possible. It's great to once in a while just get a dab to see what's going on, just for the curiosity and fun and shits and giggles, like my daughter said years and years ago, for that fun part. But the thing is, to really, that's why I say it's essential to keep the focus away from the movie. Because as you get engaged in a movie and you watch every stage of the movie to be a feedback of the changes that need to happen within yourself and also in your immediate reality, and also accessing higher aspects of yourself, it slows you down. Because you're now looking at the mirror to change, for you to make changes. Or even the fact that you make a change, your conscious makes a change, the collective makes a change, and then you're now looking at the movie to get a confirmation. The point is, forget about that. Focus on you, on how you see the world, how you see everything playing out. So like I say, pay attention to how you feel and how your vibration lowers when you pay attention to what is playing out around you and within relationships. Many of us get caught up and don't realize it shifts us. When we're watching a movie, and when I say movie, what's happening in the world, and that includes social media, that includes the movies, music, whatever else. If we give so much power to that, what ends up happening to ourselves, we start to synchronize with it, and we start following the pattern. And it will lower your vibration. And you will also notice, as you're doing so, it actually stimulates certain older parts of yourself. That may not be a bad thing if you're going to recognize it and address it quickly by acknowledge it, thank it, love it, and let it free. But at the same time, if you are paying attention to it, you will notice, as I talked about it in other episodes, we have a band of frequency. This is your frequency. And we have another layer. This is second stage. And what happens is our frequency is to increase along the way. Okay? What is frequency? Our frequency is also our accessibility to higher aspects of ourselves, higher levels of consciousness, our levels of sourceness. So the higher the frequency, the more home you will feel, because in that case, you're connecting more of yourself. Then, of course, if you max out here, then you can go to the next level and it just brings you to a higher degree. So say that this is organic 3D. Let's fix that. Well, let's do it correctly. Organic 3D, and this could be your 5D. Okay? So, and again, it's also organic. Now, if you're paying attention to the media, paying attention to what's going on in all of the stuff that's going on and so forth, you will notice that you will adjust. Now, this doesn't move as easily, but it does adjust. So the lower in your frequency, the less access do you have to yourself, the bigger picture, the higher conscious knowing, and so forth. So it's very important, of sorts, to pay attention when you're watching all of that, how less comfortable you may feel, less feeling good about whatever's playing out in your life. Because what you're doing is you're lowering your level of frequency within that bandwidth, for example. So you could drop down to here if you put a lot of attention on. Now, if you are going and connecting with yourself, you're going to increase it. Then once you've maximized it and really saturated yourself, then you start going into another range. The other thing is you will notice that is more immediate is vibration. Okay? So this is your vibration. Oops. This is your vibration. So what ends up happening here, vibration changes very quickly. Somebody just has to say one thing, triggers one button on you or one storyline with you, and you can go from feeling great to feeling like crappy. Okay? You can go, and that can change very quickly. Not only interactions with people, especially if you connect and get entangled with that, but also what you're seeing, what you're exposing to yourself, and what you're consuming too. Consuming not only from what you're observing and watching and putting focus on, but what you're consuming in liquid form or food form or anything of that nature. So this will adjust your vibration very quickly. So that's the part that responds, and then your range of access. Now, of course, when your vibration is very low, you're basically going to see the world that matches that vibration, which a lot of people like to call laws of attraction, but really you're going to have people entangling or playing with you at whatever the vibration is. So if you're going to get caught up in fear, you're going to be playing with a lot more fearful people, and you're going to be drawn to various media and whatever else that will support that vibration because you're looking for it to feel a match there, and that's what you're doing. So it's really important to pay attention when you're watching something, when you're entangling something, when you get triggered, how your vibration adjusts and then how your frequency adjusts. And the frequency you can tell by how much you can connect with yourself and how much access to consciousness, to self-awareness, to your sourceness you have. So that's the points that you want to look at. So it's important for you to really pay attention to how it feels, because that'll be a good guidance point for you to say, okay, that really changes me. It activates that part. Now, of course, you want to address whatever's linked to it, whatever story, definitions, labels, or whatever else, but then really do not consume it to reinforce it, because remember, the ego can still get stimulated not by whatever's going around, but what is being watched and others are sharing, because it does play a role there. Okay, so what are we to do? Well, use your dream state. We are dreamers. Dream in sleep, dream in how you see and feel the world within you. Dream it. Experience it in your dream. Okay? So you dream it, you use your imagination combined with your emotions. Feel good emotions, exciting emotions, emotions that make you feel love, empowered, excited, full of opportunity, and seeing and feeling that added to the dream state. So you're now envisioning the world that feels so natural for you. And some of you will be grabbing or bringing forth those visions and memories of how you may have experienced yourself in other dimensions. So that becomes a reference point. Not that that is the place to be and that's better. No, you bring that experience to this playground to experience it here. So you dream up your life, and pay attention that it's not an old dream, because a lot of times we have old dreams. Many people do, all of us do, really old dreams of wanting what the old inverted 3D, 2D world looks like. Having money, having power, having success, having, certain individual connections or relationships and partnerships and things of that nature. I'm not saying you don't have the connections and so forth, but it's from a higher state of consciousness. It's pure. It is advancing a relationship, for example, that is very free and everyone's being themselves, and where it's no attachments, no definitions, no reliance or anything of that nature coming into place. And use your imagination. Add the components and pieces to it, and then really feel it. Because emotions actually activate the feeling part of you. And when I say feeling part of you, it's the body's feeling part. So whenever you have something great and you feel emotionally in a loving state, that creates a or a good state or a happy state. Now those are just states. Those are emotional charges and activations and so forth. You can use that within it. The knowing is the more powerful feeling. So the next stage of it that goes even beyond the emotional part is feeling that knowing part within yourself. So you're connecting and it feels rock solid, it feels natural, it feels completely something that you have. Some connection there.
Your it's your Facebook.
Okay. Well, the Facebook is almost dropped completely, and YouTube. There's. Okay, it's coming back now. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. It's.
I think it's your internet. It says error internet connection.
Yeah. Okay. So we may be having fluctuation in our internet. It just adds to everything else we've been experiencing today. So it's been good. If I see that the recordings are really poor quality or we have a lot of issues with it, I will repost the recording, because I am recording it on two platforms, not two platforms, but two on a camera and also on the computer here, so that I can put a cleaner version of it, and we'll add the beginning part to it. So because of all the problems we've had, I'll repost it if necessary. If I have to stream it again, I will. Okay, so using the dream state combined with that emotions to powerfully reshape reality and unpack the new world. Because when you're connecting with that at that level, when you're using the dream state, when you're using your imagination, you're going into creative mode. But that creative mode is the unpacking of your new world. You're basically unpacking the new world within you, and you're reshaping your reality, because all your reality will respond accordingly. Okay? You will see and feel within yourself how the realities around you play out. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. You're laughing at me, why? We're supposed to be a short introduction and it's gone too long? Okay. Yes, this was supposed to be about 15-20 minutes. All right. In non-form, the experience is quite limiting. This is where much of the growth and advancements occur, while here, play it out to the max. Many people get all caught up in the idea that, how can I say? That if we were not in the human form, okay, that it would be way better. Like, let me get through this and then I'll go into the nirvana, heaven, whatever it is. Can we experience that? Absolutely. But does it have the same capacities as being in form on a particular playground? Not at all. This is why we choose to take on forms, or what looks like form, avatars, light, whatever you call it, holographic expressions that look and feel very real, that connects you to a physical, what feels like complete physical experiences with different paradigms and different levels of experiences and so forth. So in understanding that, even saying, well, I would prefer to be back on a different planet, okay, or to play a different role, we can get caught up with that idea. But the thing we need to understand is that what you have here available in your particular physical representation, or this kind of physical form, let's call it that, because that's how we would like to relate with it, because it seems that way. that physical form on a particular playground. And it doesn't matter if we are going through the purging and at first the full integration of that inverted world, that inverted matrix and all of that stuff, going into the inverted 3D, 2D, and now going into all these other transitional aspects of ourselves, going into state. It doesn't matter any of that. The reason you have chosen that you knew, first and foremost, that every planet has its own uniqueness, which is basically a high-powered video game movie of sorts. This particular one on planet Earth is very unique, like all of them are, but it has a very intensified capacity for us to achieve amazing things that are not easily replicated anywhere else. This is why you chose this planet. This is why you chose to align everything that you've aligned. This is why you aligned relationships, what life stream you came through, what gender you took on, what part of time, where you were going to unpack yourself, where you were going to do whatever. Okay? Because you knew that this was the place for you. This is the place you wanted to be ready for to experience. Easily we can get caught up in the idea that it's better somewhere else. I think what is the thing is, the grass is always greener on the other side of the, how does it go?
That's right, just on the other side, hon.
Okay,
The other
green.
side of the fence.
The fence, that's it. The grass is greener on the other side of the fence. It's greener when we get over with this journey and this life stream. It's going to get better because of the fact that we're non-form. We're not going to be in pain. We're not going to have physicals in the same way. And we're going to be in this nirvana. Okay? Even the fact of going, we're going to go into oneness. We're going to go into what we call spirit. Non-form version of it, which we all are, spirit, by the way. But you have taken on a form and are using that as a reference point. But even saying that part and saying, well, I'm going to go in non-form. If you tune into yourself right now, okay? Besides the logic part, which is basically, if it was so great, and I don't mean that one's better than the other, if you were totally satisfied, is the better word for it. If you were totally satisfied in being in non-form, or being on another planet, and taking on a different form, on a different experience, you would have never, ever chose to be here. You chose here on this planet because this is the one that you really wanted to adventure. You really wanted to do experience. You really wanted to be coming in at a particular time to go through whatever, because it provided something very unique and so catered to what you were ready to experience next. To remind yourself there. And this is not a race to go from A to B. This is a progression that, yes, it's speeding up so we get into another level of experience, but it's not the race and it's not from A to B. It's about every step of the journey. And you are catering and designing it, even if you've forgotten that before, but you're remembering that now. So when we're going through the remembering, we're remembering who we are, first of all. We're remembering that we made the choice. We may remember what our intentions were and apply it to what our upgrade intentions are. But we also remember that you made the choice, you wanted this part, and you have the ins and outs of when to come in, go out, or do whatever part of it. That's what you're really remembering. It's not like, I remember who I am, and now I can be that. Well, yeah, you're remembering that you're a higher power being, but then you still embody, you still take the driving seat or factor or whatever you want to call it of your human experience to do what you came here to do. Yes, maximize all stages of the experience. Yes, be part of the transition. Yes, be the unpacker of your projection of that new world. So, being in non-form is not superior in any way, shape, or form. Every single soul that I have ever connected with after they left, they always seem to be in a hurry to embody something else. Now, some choose not to. Why? Because things are very different without it, without being on a particular playground and without assuming an avatar form, holographic or otherwise, experience that is very real in its experiential component part of it. Okay? So, here's the key to keep in mind. While you are here, play it out to the max. What do you think of that? Mm-hmm. You're here, push it to the max. See what you can do. Don't be held back. Hold me. I'm just going to make it through this. No. Blow the freaking doors off. Go full throttle. Experience everything. Access every part of yourself. Push to the max. But that is done through flow, through the fact of saying, I am not slowing myself down. I am not stifling myself any longer. I'm going to experience every facet of it to the fullest. And especially now. Now, with all these accentuated polarities, accentuated limits, accentuated chaos. Whoa, what you can do now was never possible till now. And you can't replicate it anywhere else because this is very unique in itself. And you are a unique being here to be part of it. So get excited. Get excited. Get playful. Maximize it. You're immortal, infinite. You don't end. If you do drop your physicality, you drop your physicality. That is it. You can take on another physicality. You can do drop-ins if you don't want to do the whole rebirthing process, which is changing anyways, so that we don't have to have the focus of saying we got to start from rebirth. That appeal may drop, so the drop-ins, because the bodies will be around longer, they will be regenerating, souls will no longer have to start. I'm not saying that it's all going to be that way. It doesn't have to start from a birthing process. And in fact, bodies can just materialize, or what looks like materialize, without going through a birthing and going through that life stream. That's down the road, and we already have that capacity. We just haven't chosen to exercise it. But we are exercising the drop-in factor, where multidimensional souls will drop in. Sometimes your human entity will swap. The bodies will upgrade accordingly. So there's a lot of changes going on. So if a particular soul says, I'm done with that, the human entity soul can leave, and also the multidimensional soul can leave, and new ones can come in. New ones can drop in and take over from where it was and create any alterations and adjustments. At that point in time, you will also notice that we're not so fixated to whatever you thought you were, because there is no more who you were or what you are. It's always like what you are experiencing each moment. You're completely wide open, and that is it. You're not engaged in any way, shape, or form in any patterns or rigidity, which we have been experiencing for a long time. And that's where we're at. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure I have nothing further to
Okay.
add.
I'm going to have to raise your volume. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So while you're here, push it to the max. While you're here, have a blast. While you're here, have fun. While you're here, be okay with any sensorial experience. While you're here, let go of everyone and everything and let everything flow. Let everybody just be drawn to you because you want to play together rather than trying to grab and hold on to people, because that doesn't work anymore. We're not there anymore. That's not how it works anymore. We've already decided that some time ago. So that's the cool part. Okay. All right. There goes the little short exercise. All right, so we're going to be addressing your questions.
You're done your little 10 minutes pre-talk, honey, before questions?
Yeah, my 10
that's
minute.
good, thanks.
What's that?
That's good.
My 10
Frank
minute
is not
talk
very
is over.
good at timing things.
Well, okay,
No,
so
no,
we're
it's
up to
good.
12 minutes, but what the heck? Or is it more than that?
Anyways, that's all
Alright.
good. We'll just
Okay.
pick away at questions as we can.
All right. All
So
right.
I'm just going to check the time on this.
Okay, so you check the time. I think I'm going to switch cameras and do something else here.
Okay.
That's where's that little guy? We're going to go to that. I don't think I have to write anything, so
Probably not. If you want to sit down.
I'm going to.
Okay.
And I'm going to change cameras too.
Okie dokie.
No, then that would give me a problem with the recording.
Okay, so can you, so you have to stand? You can sit still, right?
Yeah, I'm going to, I'll sit on the other chair.
Okay.
How's that? Okay. Let's bring that back up there. All right. And I'll just put a sheet up just in case I have to scribble on something. Okay.
Okay.
Let's get to play with some questions here.
Okay.
All right. Well, the full intention was we were going to do a long episode of just questions.
I know. That's why I'm giggling in the background here.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's hard to say what will flow.
That's
and
okay.
What
It's
people
all
need
good.
and don't need. And when I say need, what needs to be stimulated because of the fact that you're ready for the next level of stimulation.
It was all perfect.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. For our first question, what's the difference between being our true natural selves versus looking to improving/focus on who we want to be? Example, I want to start speaking more intentional and less default.
Well, whatever feels natural for you, what feels completely congruent within yourself, whatever, like for example, you want to speak more and share more and so forth, that feels good to you, then that is your true self expressing through you. Okay? What is not your true self, or what we can relate to as not being our true self, is when we are engaged in stories, programs, belief systems, or what other people have said the way of life is and so forth, and you're not being yourself. You may feel like speaking out, but you're feeling intimidated, or you're feeling that, oh, I'm not good enough to be able to do this, or whatever it is. So being your true self may look like you're upgrading yourself, because in a way it is, but what you're doing is you're bringing the natural state of you up. So that's your true self. The true self is making the choice because that's the choice you want to make. It's not a choice because others have recommended it and you want to comply to those choices or recommendations or whatever input somebody has given. So, for example, if you're in your family and your family says, well, if you want to be accepted, you want to be part of the family, you got to play this role. Now, and if you take that role, and it really is not what feels natural to you, it's not your true self, then you're not engaging your true self. But if you choose to be your true self, which this is what the big call is for all of us, then you can go still in the family dynamic, play whatever role you choose, but you're being your true self. That means you're not adopting to their ideas, you're sharing yours. You're being you, what feels natural to you, without imposing anything on them. And if the relationship is not supportive or anything of that nature because it kind of takes whatever course it does, then you just let it flow. So the true self is really you being and unpacking what feels true from your knowing is your next phase of what you want to do. So in this case, you want to speak out more. You want to let your viewpoints, without ramming it down anybody's throat or expecting anybody to follow it, you just share it. That's what I do. I just share information. Whoever accepts any part of it, because it resonates with you, because it reminds you of who you are and reminds you of what you already know. And the same thing with family dynamics, friendship, and whatever else. You share. You don't cater it based on what they want to hear. You share with what you see But if they're not open to it, that's okay. You don't have to say anything. You will know when you say something with certain individuals or another. But you're also, when you're true to yourself, you'll see if the relationship is supportive or not with judgment, but in the fact of how it feels.
This has to do with what you were talking about earlier. So all I have to do is be a neutral observer. I should put it in when you were doing it, but
okay. Well, yeah, if you are neutral and you are an observer, you can see your patterns, you can see your programs, you can see whatever's playing out around you without being affected by it and without being driven by it. And by seeing it, if there's anything that's still active within yourself, then it's so much easier to acknowledge its presence, thank it for what it offers, and also at this point in time, send love to it and let it go. In neutrality, you see the full or larger picture. Because when you are polarized, you will tend to see one side or another, or fragments of one side or another, and you're not seeing the whole. You're not seeing the true full spectrum of what is playing out. In neutrality, you're much more powerful to navigate. In neutrality, you're actually more connected to yourself. So not only do you have access to an inner knowing, you're much more powerful in that inner knowing to navigate whatever part of it. Plus, when you're in the observer mode, when you're in neutrality, you're also streaming that into the collective, and that it becomes a powerful conduit, what do you call it? A very powerful instrument, a powerful, I lost the word, but anyways, a powerful activator to the collective of neutrality. Because in neutrality, then you're not polarized, and you now can navigate freely, and now you can shape your reality accordingly without any judgment about one reality over another, one choice over another, one playmate over another, or anything of that nature.
Sorry, folks, it takes me a few minutes to...
Did you ever get Facebook working in the comments?
I was able to only post, believe it or not, the Patreon thing and the PayPal, but I can't comment for some reason.
Oh.
I think it's my computer.
Okay.
Because it's, has problems. Okay, just a minute. Okay.
It's been a technology challenging day.
Yeah, okay. Here's next question. I have come to the understanding the astral plane can be manipulated by certain entities with AI technology to create false dreams. What is the purpose of this for our growth process? I often remember many of my dreams upon waking up the next day or even during naps. I'm starting to see what I believe are the false dreams. I have also started seeing a pattern in when these false dreams occur. A certain time at night. Is there a way to be more aware of when we are in a true dream or a false dream?
Well, every dream, astral and otherwise, as it presents, see if it triggers anything, okay? So if it does trigger anything, you want to address what it triggers, what the story, definitions, ideas, concepts, belief systems, and so forth that come in, the emotional charges or anything of that nature. So use it no matter where it's coming from. And when I say use it to the point where you are at this point, because when we're talking about dream state, it's what it plays out, what you can't play out, so that you can play it. For example, in the manipulative version of it may show an alteration of reality of some sort, but what you want to pay attention to is what gets triggered, how you feel when you awaken, and what ideas is streaming with you because of that dream. And then you want to address to see if there's any links to it, to your operating system. Because if you're in neutrality, then you'll see that the dream will, regardless of where it's coming from, will not trigger you. And then you know that there's no program attached to that. Now, you're not going to create a reliance on the dream state. So the dream state, you can purposely want to experience a world of your own design that is coming through you. Now, sometimes the dream state actually plays out some older experiences that you may have had in other embodiments or in your past or whatever else. But that's only just so that you purge it. So you basically acknowledge it, thank it, love it, and send it off on its way. Basically put it into the field, and everything around you is the field anyways. So when we're looking at the dream state, so see what it triggers first and foremost. You want to clear all that stuff out. And then you can purposely design your dreams. And, there's two types of dreaming. You can go dreaming where you close your eyes and you just focus on seeing the world. So you're basically using your imagination to create an experience that you're experiencing within yourself, in your mind. So you're seeing the world look a certain way, certain connection, certain this, without any reliance or without any attachments to it, but you see it in that way. So you have what we call the awakened dream state, where you're dreaming and feeling and experiencing yourself in that. The dream state that you have at night, that could be from the astral, whatever it is, when you're completely neutral, usually it doesn't have access to you. So you can, at that point, also say, okay, I choose no longer to be receiving any streaming from the astral that's manipulated or anything of that nature. If it is not for my highest good in any way, shape, or form, then I do not give any approval, or what's the other word? Consent. I don't give any consent to be receiving any transmissions from anywhere that is not for my highest good in every way, shape, or form. And that way, unless you give it approval and consent to it, it can't really come into your dream state at that point in time. But pay attention to it, because if it does trigger it, then as much as you may think it's not for your highest good, your highest good could be also triggering old stories, programs, and belief systems. So you can acknowledge all of it, thank it all, love it all, and let it all go. Because in neutrality, then you won't be triggered, and then you can decipher what is what. And it's like, oh, that's just manipulated or whatever it is, or it's part of the inverted version of the world. Okay.
All right. Next question. I am working on dreaming, imagining in the new world, and I am a little stumped. I know I don't want the old inverted 3D, but I don't know exactly what I do really want or what's possible. Advice?
Okay. Drop the possible part, because everything's possible. That's what I was saying earlier. So don't let that impede you in any way, shape, or form. And don't get impeding the idea of what I want, because that becomes another obstacle of sorts, if you want to call it that. So when you're dreaming the new world, feel within you what feels natural, what feels really, really good, exciting, and so forth. As you feel it, allow your imagination to envision or create a vision, create that part within yourself of how you see that world. If you don't go with the wants and you don't go into the other parts of it, then it's a lot easier to kind of see it. Okay, so just be excited. Feel that excitement within yourself, and then see that world, what it looks like. Don't make it concrete or step by step or pieces in there, or even getting caught up. Is this even possible? That's why I was saying the impossible is becoming more and more available to us. It's happening. Let's put it this way. And it is for us to go beyond what we've adopted as ideas as possible or not possible, because then that opens up the creation capacities even further and the possibilities even further, and it stretches also what the collective is able of doing by doing so. So just allow yourself just to flow with your imagination, flow with your dream state, and don't put, I don't know what I want. There's nothing to that. You know what you would like to experience by just envisioning it. And the more you envision it, the more it unpacks, the more you'll be able to see it more clearly, more details will come in, and more of that life stream reality of sorts will come more real to you.
Okay, this will go along with that is how do I live it to the max?
Well, I don't know. Okay, living to the max really represents at this point in time is that instead of holding ourselves back to wait for things or to say, okay, this is capacity possible, or that, I got to play this role because, people expect it this way or not. What we are talking about living it to the max is do not hold yourself back. Live it to the degree that you feel within yourself. You may not be able to do it 100% immediately, but keep stretching it, living it to the max. Be fully present with every opportunity, every connection, every relationship, every facet of reality. Like you're like the adventure seeker. So you look at it and say, I'm here. What do I want to do while I'm here? I may want to run. I may want to climb. I want to be hugging trees. I may be hugging people. I may be wanting to do this or that. Or I want to see how far I can go with, doing a video or writing or connecting with people or, whatever connections that you may have. Instead of limiting yourself and say, well, I got to hold on to this relationship, this a relationship can be work, a relationship can be partner, a relationship to kids. So whatever that may be, put it to the max. Have fun with everyone and everything. And that's what we're talking about to the max, because as you push it to the max, it maximizes. Now, some things will terminate because the max can't handle it, but then you will open up more things for you by just pushing it to the max. So if you're going to be somewhere, go for it. Have a blast there. If you're going to a party, I'm just giving you an example here. You're going to a party, have fun at the party. Okay? That doesn't mean you get drunk or anything by nature. Enjoy every facet, every connection, every conversation, every opportunity to dance, party, do whatever that feels most natural to you. Okay? Not to say, fall into the old patterns of, okay, I got to do this or that, or the fact that I can only have fun when I've had lots of drinks, or I can only have fun when I gorge on food, or anything of that nature. No, you have fun with everything. You may taste different things. You may experience connections or whatever it is. And that's just an example. Wherever you are, maximize it. Be yourself. What does a child do? So bring that child up, sort of thing, within yourself. What does a child do? The child is always looking around, looking for opportunities. What can I touch? What can I feel? What can I play with? What can I have fun with? And so forth. And don't be concerned with what other people think, because you become contagious. You will be a very powerful conduit activator just for the fact that you're living life to the max. And the max meaning have a blast, have fun. Okay, so have fun, girl.
I'm going to have as much fun as I possibly can. Okay, how much of this will we see in our lifetimes?
Well, it depends. If you're going to be here for a little while, you'll see a lot of it. If you're going to be here for a longer time, you're going to see many, many parts of it. If you're planning to check out anytime soon, you're not going to see much of anything. But regardless, have fun with whatever you see. You have the choice how long you stay and and how long, how much you stay, how much you get involved, and if you're going to plan to leave or not, in any way, shape, or form, or any stages of your life. So this is one of the reasons we're speeding everything up. There's been so much swapping energetically and otherwise, multidimensional souls at different frequencies and everything else that's going on, because we want to do a tremendous amount over a short period of time to bring things up to another level. You have the freedom to decide how many stages you want to be part of, how much of it you want to be involved throughout all the changes. Now, we never reach an end goal, because that's always growing, but it will be tremendously much more different. And as you've already noticed, we've gone through a lot of changes from 86 to 2012, from 2013 up to 2019, and now 2019 or 2020 and 2021, we're going even further changes. And the next year and a half, or less than a year and a half now, we're going to notice even more dramatic changes. And then, of course, we have a certain amount of years that we are completing and fine-tuning the organic 3D for the ones that are wanting to play there, and the other ones that in 5D will continue to expand within there, and then the merging of all of that. So it depends on how long you choose to stay here, and you have the freedom to come and go as you choose. Don't think that, now you may have to make some certain choices to kind of support your body so that you don't continue overwhelming it in ways where it actually deteriorates, and you may make choices where you're not going to introduce some stuff that's going to reduce the functionality of the physicality. So those are choices that you make. Will you see it in your lifetime? If you choose to do so, absolutely. And if you're 100 years old, you still can, because you don't have to have a certain exit point because of a number on your what people call age.
I'm just going to let people know on Facebook, I can copy and paste. If you have a question, I can copy and paste it onto my document. So if you do have one. Next question. As we move more and more into our true self, would you say that we will have more intuition, synchronicities and such?
Yeah, well, you'll be more aware of it because we already have it. The thing is that we're very unconscious of it, and a lot of times we judge what we have, synchronicities and so forth within our lives. But what's going to happen is that you'll be more conscious of it. You will be more directive of it, where you are consciously kind of creating those connections, those alignments, those synchronicities, and whatever else. You'll just be more aware of it, and you'll be directing it in a conscious state, meaning that you'll be aware of the direction and how it plays out. Of course, as we're moving forward, more and more of these synchronicities, alignments, and so forth are coming forth even faster and faster and faster than before. Before there was more of a delay, now there's less and less delay. What we experience and create and adjust in our reality has also speeded up. So there's not so much integration time, and there's not so much delay time for us to actually have any form of experience. And if there's going to be certain agreements that certain things move at a certain pace for a period of time, then we use the dream state to kind of fill in the blank where you can experience the changes a lot quicker, but eventually those two will merge.
Bobbing between two things.
Okay, understand.
Okay, next question. Having waited for this time all my life, I fear I will just be left behind in the fear and depression I'm feeling at the moment.
Okay, so what are you going to do with the fear and depression? Don't give it up. It's a lot of fun if you allow yourself to have fun with it. What I want to say, I'm being humorous at the same time. What I want to say with the fear and depression, okay, give yourself the opportunity to fully experience it. Most of us, if we're having fear and we're having depression, we're either in judgment of it, we're comparing it, or we're resisting it. Resisting is the most forefront thing. We resist the fear, we resist the depression, or whatever else you may be feeling. So give yourself the opportunity to fully embody, fully be present to it, accept it, welcome it, hug it, feel that depression, feel the fear. I love you, I thank you, I appreciate you. Find it as many reasons to thank it, because depression, fear, and any other things that play out all have gifts in it. So see all of it, thank all of it, be in love with all of it, and you will see that it will dissolve. Because first of all, you maximize yourself with that experience, enrich yourself to that experience. You get all the gifts that it's been trying to give you for the longest time. And it's going to bring up stories. A lot of times depression is a reflection of choices you made or didn't make, relationships you had or didn't have, what happened, what didn't happen. Your reflection on the past, reflection on the judgment, the label, the definition of anything that may have happened in the past, may have not happened in the past, what journey and choices you may have made. You start to drop all of those things. Write it out. Write out what you feel. Because if you pay attention to why you're in fear, why you are in depression. Because fear not only is an illusion, fear is required when we are disempowered, when we are in a victim state. Those are temporary, illusionary storylines. Okay? So if we feel disempowered and feeling that we are not in charge, then we can have fear that something is going to override your free will. Something is going to override what your preference would be about your experience. That's why it's an illusion, because it's not real. But if we buy into it, then we will create the realities that will reflect the fear, will reflect that part of it. So, yes, there's some parts to this. Acknowledge the fear, acknowledge the depression, give yourself permission to experience it all. Write out what it gives you, what you're seeing. Go into that massive gratitude for the depression, for the fear, because it gives you an experience you could not have without them. But that doesn't mean you have to be attached to them. It doesn't mean that it has to be with you. It doesn't mean that it has to be part of your life moving forward. When you go through that, you thank it and you blast it with love, meaning feeling deep love for the experience, for your creation, because the depression and the fear is your creation and also your acceptance of having it in there. So you consented for it to play out because you made that consent, that choice to have it play out because it served you in one way or another. So be in gratefulness for that choice and everything that is provided for you, and then you'll see how all of that starts to fade. But also write out any stories, programs, belief systems that may have come attached to that. And then you will see that the movement forward will speed up for you. So are you going to be left behind? You know, there is no turn on, turn off, make it by this time, or you're left behind of sorts. It'll be great to be riding the wave rather than being knocked over the wave all the time, by the wave. But at the same time, don't be concerned that you're getting knocked off. Get back on the board, get back on a surfing component of it. That means what I've just explained to you, and you'll see that you'll be able to enjoy that ride. And then the other part of it, maximize the experience, whatever experience that you have.
Okay, next question. These last months and weeks have been feeling good, stable, and centered on everything Franco is teaching. Creative, ignoring all mainstream fiction. But now, the kind of unsettling feeling I am living is that the reality that surrounds me, even the positive things of my life, has become alien to me, as if I do not belong to anything. Therefore, while continuing to create my new artistic world and feeling happy and positive in my bubble and doing all practical daily things, I do not feel any motivation or interest to connect with the external world, or better, I do not see any way to walk to do it. Is it a physiological phase or psychological phase of the process, or is there something wrong, and what can I do to activate a connection with what surrounds me?
Well, okay, I mean, honor what you really feel from within, okay? So if you feel that you don't want to engage, don't engage. But the thing is, if you make the choice to say, I want to engage as my true self, as my non-alien form, meaning that I want to be in my true essence, because when you're in your true form, your true, true self, that's not alien, and that's always changing anyway. So if you want to interact and you make the commitment to interact as your true self, without any judgment that if I go myself, I may have resistance, you drop that part and you want to make sure that that's not part of the equation. So you're going to acknowledge it if that's the case, thank it, of course, and then love it, and then let it go. So whenever you feel, and at this point, true feeling, not emotional feeling, true feeling, to engage, you engage. But you will engage on your terms. You engage as your true self, rather than, saying, well, if I go play there, I got to take on this role. If I go play there, I got to be part of this. Or if I go play there, I have to interact with the movie around me, or the reality that's playing around me. But if you're still feeling that you need to be in your, what you call the bubble at that point, stay there, because you're going to get to a point where you become so refined in your trueness that at some point you want to come out of your bubble and go be that expression. Now, you may be in your bubble, but you're still influencing, and you're still stimulating, and you're still uploading into the collective. So your bubble experience is still active. Yeah, you may not be in what you can call form interacting with others. You may not be in the fact of you're interacting with people on a physical representation and connections and so forth. But at the same time, you're still impacting. But at some point, you want to be play with other playmates like yourself at this point. So that just be okay with it, but also look at if there's any stories, programs, belief systems around what it means to go out and play in the reality that's around you. Okay, many of us will feel like you want to go play, and sometimes you go into that, what you said, the bubble part, just to kind of integrate things and refine yourself, become more solid within yourself before interacting again. And you have to understand, if you're feeling uncomfortable with the outside world, you want to look at what the story is for that, so that you're not in the bubble because you're afraid to interact, or that the fact that you have a judgment about what's outside of your bubble. You want to be neutral about every facet of it, and then you're okay either way, if you're going to go in the bubble or stay in the bubble or go out and play. Okay?
Great. Thanks, honey. Okay, next one. I have known I need to get out of town and back on the land, but each time I try, I keep sensing I need to stay here for now. It's not time yet. Interested in your perspective.
Yeah, if you're feeling it's not time, then it's not time. And what that means, your energy is still necessary where you are. Two parts to it. First of all, it's because you may be on a particular part of where you're living that requires you holding your particular energy, and your elevating of your energy is also conducive. Okay? Then at some point in time, you may feel that it's time for you to move somewhere else. I've navigated my life the same way, in the sense where I've moved many times, and we move, and we're in the transition period again. We know we have to move. We've already been given a date that we have to be out of here by, which is, about a month away now at this point. But at the same time, we don't know exactly where. So we're still here. But we knew several months ago, before even getting notification, that it was time. Now, first part of the phase was in the beginning of the year, and Kimberly was having the same thing, where we felt there was time for us to move, or that time's coming. But we also felt it wasn't time. So we've been here till now, and here we are in September, from January to September. And I know it's time now. We actually even have a timeline, but we don't know exactly where we're going yet. And nothing has showed up in the sense where anything that we looked felt like, okay, that's the next phase of it. So honor that part of yourself, okay? The idea is I want to connect with the land. That's great. They may be the point of when you do that. And that can change very quickly. Right now, your energy is required where you are. So be okay where you are, knowing that at some point you will know exactly time, move. Okay, and you go to a new place, and that new place will be ready for you, because that's where your energy will reside and where the connections for you. Because the other part of the other part of what I wanted to say is not only where your energy is required, where you are also growing too. So you're getting a feedback from that energy. So because you've made a choice to not only harness that energy, but also what's being offered to you. So it goes two ways at this point in time. So just honor that part of it, and you'll know when it's time. Go ahead.
Okay. I tend to be quite neutral during the day, and I feel rock solid most of the time, but I often awaken from an anxiety-ridden 3D-ish dreams that I guess I'm just revisiting, processing old belief systems.
Yeah, old belief systems, old stories, old triggers, things that may have happened, something that you've kind of not cleared up, and so forth. So that's great that you're rock solid and everything else. Remember, the dream state is used also to actually purge things that maybe don't purge that easily during the daytime, because things don't have the same level of flexibility than in the sleep dream state part of it. So as that, yes, you're basically having that to move through you through the dream state. So it's just bringing up those old stories, patterns, programs, and so forth. If there's something that keeps coming up on a regular basis or has the same theme, then you want to spend some time, write out what you feel from awakening from that dream. What story, what emotional charge came up, what what belief system or anything of that nature that, or label or anything else that's come up for you. That way you can acknowledge all of it and get appreciation, love, and then let it go, so you don't have to repeat those patterns. But that's the dream state is used for that also.
I used to support folks to release and or integrate trauma, including ancestral and collective trauma. Now it feels this will simply dissolve, unravel if we allow. Is this the case?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
If so, is there value in supporting folks in these times? I simply support folks to feel safe enough for their bodies to integrate and align naturally.
Yes, absolutely. So some people do require the support because it's very foreign for them and the emotional charges may be very intense. The process is going to be a lot simpler because the energies and everything else is very, very conducive to move things through quickly. So you can hold the space, you can hold the energy, you can kind of, what you said, make them feel safe, which is just a program anyways, but for them to feel comfortable as they go through the integration, through the processing of purging of traumas or whatever else that's playing out for them. So you're not only holding the space, you're also holding an energy for them that they may not be able to access, especially when they're going through emotional charges. But really, it's going to be a lot easier for them, and it's going to be easier for you, so there's not as much effort required. So you're just going to be holding that loving, that true, pure love that you have with them, for them, and so that they feel supported while they're going through that purging process of themselves.
Okay. Do all humans come from the angelic realms or only some?
Well, humans are from here, okay? So when we're talking about, I just got our phone ringing here. When we're talking humans, really what comes from the angelic realms or what comes from, from other, what do you call it, different beings and things of that nature, is the multidimensional soul, okay? The human entity, the reason it's called the human entity, it's a human identification. It's the soul that identifies with the human experience. That is very integrated and very experiential or experienced in the human part of it. The body itself, yeah, you've got the multidimensional part of the planet because of its connection to the solar system, the galaxy, universe, and so forth. But also, you have to understand that the physicalities have 12 different species contributors. So all of them are different contributors that make up the physicalities. So it depends on what you're referring to. So a lot of times when we say the angelic realms, you're talking about the multidimensional soul, because the multidimensional souls can be from the angelic realm. Now, no soul is exclusive from anywhere, including the angelic realms. They're all source. They're all spirit, source and creation. It may have taken on a particular sequence of experience and sequence of role-playing that is in the angelic, what we call the angelic realm, because there's a range of how those roles are played, how it's experienced, what access it has, what access it doesn't have, and so forth. So we're many, many makeups when it comes to the multidimensional part of us, the multidimensional. Now, all of us, every facet of us, doesn't matter if it's the multidimensional, if it's a human entity, if it's the body, and all the different DNAs and so forth that are all different species contributors, the planet, all sentient beings, it's all spirit. All of it is spirit, all of it is source, all comes from one place, and all of it is still in one place. It's just projecting different experiences and so forth. So some souls come in that are choosing to finally embody, because usually the angelic realms do not take on physical forms on certain levels of density planets or dimensional planets. But some of them choose to incarnate, to take on a physical form, to come and play a very specific role. And so some will. So are they all from there? No.
Okay, this is our last question.
Okay.
For today.
I know we didn't get into any of the sheets, right?
We didn't get into any. These are all the questions just from today.
From today, okay.
So
do we still have more besides that one?
There's a couple more from today, unless people stop posting them.
Okay, go ahead.
So I thought we'll have to stop eventually. So
Yep.
Okay, so what are some of the reasons that so many of us are feeling so tired these days?
Well, the tiredness is because, we're going through a lot of changes. And many of us are like to be super active and continue with the same schedule as before. Our bodies, our energy field, our energy bodies and so forth do require more integration time and to slow down the process, and at times just to kind of integrate, meaning that you don't keep up the same schedule as you did before. So you're going to feel that. Some of the changes, because of the changes, and while the body is integrating the new changes, new codes and so forth, it may feel overwhelmed and overloaded because it's doing a lot on the back end of it within the operating system to change. So that's going to feel that way. Many of us are also at the same time feeling the polarity energies, and the polarity energies can be draining. So if you're trying to play one level and there's another level tugging on you from a higher perspective at this point in time to bring you to that neutral state, then you're going to feel that tiredness. Is it part of the process? It's not an absolute necessity, but many people are, because of rapid changes going on within themselves and because of a lot of other things that are adjusting and what other roles that they've chosen to do as integrating, transforming, transmuting, and then uploading, it does at times feel very draining, and you may feel very tired. You may require more sleep. Sometimes you may require a lot less sleep because you're super activated and whatever else. So you're going to feel and see the fluctuation. There is no consistency for anybody, but many people are feeling that level of tiredness. What's your reflection on the tiredness part yourself personally?
Sure, more tired. I think that there's just lots going on all around us, and I think too, for me, it's like you're holding your space and you want to keep in that space. And I think sometimes that can be tiring if there's lots bombarding you all the time. So that's why too I don't engage and look at a lot of other stuff that's going on out there, reading stuff, watching stuff. That helps actually to not overwhelm the system, because now you're trying to rebalance from that energy, and that's of course going to use up more.
Yes, and the other thing is we want to pay attention to, and Kimberly brought up a very good pointer on that. We want to pay attention to what we're consuming, say food, liquids, and so forth, how it feels as you consume it, because some of it, because of its vibration, because of the fact that the body is not prepared to process that anymore, it takes a lot more energy than it used to process it because it is not so willing to do so. The other thing is too, like what Kimberly was saying, watching certain programs and medias and so forth can create really changes in frequency and vibration for you, as I was showing earlier. And that can end up using up a lot of integration time, a lot of energies to not only integrate it, but also to purge it and so forth, or how can I say, neutralize or balance the different polarities that you're exposing yourself to. So just pay attention to how your energy levels changes. And the thing is too, what would be also draining for you at this point in time would be trying to do something that does not align with you any longer. Now some things may still be to some necessity, but what is not, you let it go. The other thing you need to look at is if there's a story program based on doing something, and if you've created a judgment about doing something in particular, then that may also make you feel much more drained too. So that's kind of something to pay attention within yourself. How does this make me feel, and what the part of it? So it's really being observant of everything that you're doing, and notice when you're feeling more tired, what activities, what you're eating, consuming, what you're watching, what you're interacting with, who you're playing with, and so forth. And that will give you indications. Those areas, those things may require adjustments or letting them go and so forth. So it is part of the process, but it all serves anyway. So it's just mainly pay attention to it, because that way you don't have to really go very a long time having that drained experience. You were going to say something?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Just wondering, did you want to stop there, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay.
Unless the questions you have, the next two, are totally related with what we just talked about.
Do it.
And then we can wrap it up.
I
if
think
not,
we'll wrap it up.
Okay. So we'll mark those down, and we'll attempt again on Tuesday.
They are. I have them all written down.
Okay. If things work out a certain way, and we can add an extra one where I'll just
I was
address
thinking
questions.
maybe what
so
we
sit
could
down.
do is, even if we just sat down and did a recording, not live, and just answered all the questions and then posted, that might be a good way too.
Yeah, we could do that too. Yeah, we can record that and just post it, and then we'll have it in the description what the questions are, and time stamped where to find them if you don't want to listen to all of them, or if there's only specific ones you want to listen to. We may do that. If not, we'll try to do another live. It all depends again what all of us collectively request to be shared on each episode. So this episode was, again, this is probably our third attempt now to focus really on just Q&A, and then it turned out that it came out that it was important for another topic, and the topic was more because we collectively monitor what's necessary to trigger in our memory to basically flow with what's going on the planet right now, and at different stages. And we've just kind of entered another wave, and at this point in time, we were kind of requesting certain things to come in and play a very powerful role, which was something that wasn't there before, but it is there now. All right. So again, thank you for co-creating this beautiful experience. Thank you for your questions and for your participation. Spend some time re-listening to this. If the quality is not good when I observe it or check it, I will post the full entire thing on a clean recording on Facebook and YouTube. I'm hoping that it's okay. If it's not, then I will repost it as a upload, and go from there. And if everything feels completely in resonance with you, and you feel in resonance to support our mission forward, and also our move and everything else, feel free to contribute either through Patreon or PayPal. Both of them are in the description, and possibly even in the comment section. Please do so. If not, hey, that's cool. No problem. No expectations on our end. We really, really appreciate your assistance and so forth at this point in time. We look forward to kind of go to our next adventure, reset up again, and hopefully aligning with everything that's going on, even provide even more for you to play together on that. So thank you again for this. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the co-creation. We'll see you next Tuesday. And if we get the opportunity to kind of record and address questions and answer you will get notified, because as long as you're observing, we will post it and you will be able to see it. So until next time, go have a blast and play to the max every part.